Good afternoon, Americans and humans, but specifically to Americans. This is your favorite alien in the afternoon of Saturday, March 5th, 2021. Stand by for commentary. Well, today's commentary is on Russians getting the backlash. Well, I hear from the regular news sources, the two crazy ones, CNN and Fox News. Don't forget MSNBC, where Russians are getting mistreated. Russian restaurants are getting vandalized and threatened to blow up, and Russian citizens or Russian people that live here in the United States are getting harassed for being Russian. So, what do we do about the Russians? Well, I could say one thing you can do is 9066. Yoo-hoo, 9066. You did it against the Japanese. You didn't do it against the Germans, and you didn't do it against the Italians. But you did it against the Japanese. So the Russians are the same way, right? And I don't want to point this out, but hey, I'll do it anyway. 1948, the Berlin airlift. Yeah. You didn't hear nothing against the Soviet Union back then, did you? With all the Berlin airlift and all the threats that Mr. Joseph Stalin was giving you guys at the time. He wanted the complete German Berlin. And he was blockading West Berlin from the West Germany because remember, West Berlin was deep in East German territory. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, okay. But there was no growl, no sanctions, no, we'll kick him out of the Olympics in 1948 in London. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, none of that. So you see, that's one. 8 years later in 1956... A year earlier in 1955, the Soviet Union had completed their Iron Curtain and declared the Warsaw Pact nations. Yeah. Okay. So in 1956, Hungary says, we don't like this kind of deal here. And the Russians, with the rest of the Soviet guys, went in there and says, we mean business, and, well, they kicked butt. You don't know how bad they kicked butt because there was no social media and places like CNN and Fox with stupid commentary all over the place saying, right? No. So poor Hungary got blasted in 1956. 12 years later, oh, and by the way, in 1956, the Soviet Union went to the Australian Summer Games. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. There was no boycott against the Soviet Union. Let's cut their oil. Let's cut this. Let's cut that. Get all the guys to have businesses outside the Soviet Union and we'll get them. No, I didn't hear any of that. 12 years later, 1968. That was a strange year. A lot of assassinations in the United States that year. Woohoo! Yeah, boy, that was a fun year, wasn't it? Tet Offensive, yoo-hoo! Yeah, okay. But the Soviet Union had the same problem with the Czechs and the Slovaks, otherwise known as Czechoslovakia, who decided that they wanted a Prague Spring, as it was called, the Prague Spring, and Brezhnev, at the time, unlike Mr. Khrushchev, 12 years earlier, who wasn't exactly up to par because the Soviet Union was in a vacuum from 53 to 58, but Mr. Ukraine, Nikita Khrushchev made sure they remained business. Well, he got the post in 64, and by 68, there was another Ukrainian up there. Leonid Brezhnev. Ooh. Yeah, okay. And he wanted to make sure that, hey, Hungary, You did this, and now we got the Czechs and the Slovaks doing this. What's going on here? We don't need this kind of mess. We're trying to get ourselves back to power because we still have been put down by Khrushchev back in 1962 and he made us look bad. Yeah. So let's make us look good here. And they really stuck it to Czechoslovakia, worse than Hungary. And the pictures that I saw when I was 9 years old was a group of Hungarian soldiers in their tanks because Brezhnev made the point of Hungary taking the point. That's what you guys don't understand. The Hungarians were front and center because they wanted to show that we are part of the Soviet Union and we did this 12 years earlier, so Czechs and Slovaks take this from us. And the expressions that I saw on those Hungarian soldiers, they didn't want to be there. They wanted to be anywhere but there. And they did atrocities in Czechoslovakia in '68, some of which we don't even know today. Because, of course, the Soviet Union wouldn't tell you, and you couldn't be over there like CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. Oh, yeah, we got a live picture here of all the war, and you can see the shelling. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, right. See what I mean? So you had that in '68. And nothing happened. The Soviet Union still clobbered Czechoslovakia and got it kicking and screaming back into the Warsaw Pact and put more of those funny guys in charge of Czechoslovakia, and forever it was a joke. If you remember in 1980, Stripes with Bill Murray, where did they end up? Czechoslovakia! Yoo-hoo! That was a dig at Czechoslovakia in 1980. Remember that? Yoo-hoo! Yeah, okay. Well, the Soviet Union ended up in the Summer and Olympic and Winter Games in '68, and in Mexico, and you remember all that farce of Mexico with the United States, with all the protests that the African Americans had at the '68 Games? Woo-hoo! Yeah. Well, we're back in about 11 more years forward, and it's 1979, and we got Peanut Farmer in the White House, which is dealing with a crisis that happened a month before, in November 1979, with the hostages in Iran. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. And remember that? That cost you guys 20% interest rates under Jimmy Carter. 20% interest rates by the time he left in 1980. Ooh, 20%. Remember that? Yeah, and gas prices were, yeah, you guys don't remember nothing in the 1970s? I guess not. Well, anyway, just in a month after the Iran incident with the Americans at the American Embassy there in Tehran, Mr. Leonid Brezhnev decided, hey, we'll install our own puppet government in Afghanistan with Najibullah, and we'll walk in there, and they did. And they tore apart Afghanistan. And then you had what you call the Mujahideen, which later became Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you don't remember that, huh? Well, and what happened there? Well, the Soviet Union knew that they couldn't control Afghanistan for 10 years. The United States spent 20 years there. They got the same stupid mistake later on, did they? Yoo-hoo! Yeah. Anyway, they had to hightail it there in 1989 because by that time, Mr. Brezhnev had kicked the bucket in 1982. And then you had Andropov and Chernenko, who kicked the bucket within a year of each other, and then in 1985, well, it was Gorbachev and Glasnost and Perestroika. Yeah. Well, it so happens that he couldn't have the money. He had to hightail it out of there. oh, we don't want to do this anymore. It's costing us big time to be in here in Afghanistan. It's costing us big time to support the Warsaw Pact. Oh, yeah, man, that was costing the Soviet Union money, people. Yo. So in 1979, 1989, they did that. So what happened between 79 and 89? Well, Peanut Farmer in 1980 said, we're not going to the Summer Games in Moscow. Yeah, right. And the Soviet Union in 1984 says, oh, tit for tat, we're not going to your games in Los Angeles either. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. But there was no, other than the boycott that Peanut Farmer did, there was nothing that the Soviet Union had there. It just had its own problems. So you can't blame that on you. So then 1989 came around and the Soviet Union was bleeding money all over the place, and they had to get rid of its Warsaw Pact, they had to get rid of its satellite nations, and they had to figure out what to do. And 1990 came around and we can't keep even our Soviet republics anymore. Yeah. So by 1991, they were gone too. And especially its favorites, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and Poland, because there's a special relationship between Russia and Poland. Russia wants to clobber Poland, because Polish, they were bad. And notice that it doesn't do the same thing to the Finns and the Swedes, because they tried to do it over the centuries as recent as 1939, and those Finns can tell you that the Russians, oh boy, they got a bloody nose when they fought the Finns in 1939. You don't know about that, Americans, do you? That's the Finns. The Finns gave them fits. Boy, those Finns are tough, aren't they? Woo! Yeah. I mean, they literally gave the Soviet Union fits in 1939, which made the Soviet Union want to do a non-aggression pact with Hitler. Because remember, 1939 was bad for the Soviet Union. They got clobbered by the Finns, and the Japanese gave them a bloody nose over there in Manchuria, too. Yeah, you didn't know about that, Americans, did you? Yeah, right. So you see, that's what happened there. But there was no background as late as 1989 on the Soviet Union as far as, we're going to blockade this and we're going to do this to you. And between now and the 1970s, remember, you guys were bringing all these dissidents from the Soviet Union. Anatoly Karpov, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, to name a few there, came in. And a lot of Russians came in, and you guys settled them here quietly. There's a lot in New York. There's more there because of the oligarchs and the Russian mafia that's controlled Brighton Beach and New York City. Yoo-hoo! Yes. So you see, Americans, what are you going to do with the Russians that are here when World War III comes? And you know that Mr. Putin's not going to stop at Ukraine. It wants to collaborate and put it out of existence. It also wants revenge against Mr. Poland down there, and Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania for sticking their noses where it don't belong, like the NATO countries. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. They're the backyard of the Soviet Union. That's like saying that, we got Delaware, and we got Connecticut, and Rhode Island, and they stuck their business where they shouldn't be, so let's go over there and kill them. Yes. Do you understand me, Americans? This is what you're dealing with. So what are you going to do with the Russians? Are you going to punish them? Most of them don't understand what's going on because they're Russians. They've always never understood what's going on because under the Tsars and under the Bolsheviks and under the Soviets, and under Putin, they've been clobbered. You speak here, I will execute you on the spot. Yeah, that's what they should do in America. See how you guys like it. Execute you. Where I come from in Panama, we used to do that. There was a military republic from 1968, and especially after Noriega took over, that you put in place. Whoo! He killed people. So did Omar Torrijos, but he didn't do it that blatant like Noriega did. But you understood where you were under Omar Torrijos. You couldn't say anything or else you would have been in trouble. This is what's happening under Russia. And this is what you don't understand. Boy, you guys have a long way to go. So what are you going to do with the Russians? You going to bring back Executive Order 9066? This is your favorite alien. Good day.